Welcome back to the studio, everybody. Today, we're going to be kind of just breaking down, talking about The Last of Us Episode 7. We've had 7 episodes so far.
We have.
Good counting.
Good
counting, my man. Good counting.
Woo!
Quick maths.
We've only got 2 left. What do we think so far?
Bored.
Bored?
I'm going to be honest. I'm kind of bored. The show hasn't done a ton of, I don't know, legwork to get me.
They're skipping leg day. They're only doing
skipping leg day.
They are leg day.
We don't even know, aside from trying to get Ellie to scientists. It doesn't feel like there's really like an end goal, and we don't know how far we're going.
What's their main goal?
So
their main goal is to fix this epidemic. Is this considered an epidemic?
I guess so.
Or pandemic? I don't know.
You know, the main goal of the show is to show the relationship between these two characters. They're taking whole episodes to do side missions.
So I think
to do DLC.
So I had no problem. There was a few things I had a problem with, but I didn't have that much of a problem with last night's episode.
Okay. I don't think last night's episode did anything positive.
There was stuff. We followed a main character, and it gave us a backstory for just who she is. It gave us a story. It was boring, but it still gave us a story.
So my thoughts on it are they gave us basically all the information in the second episode or whatever with Ellie, and now we just saw what happened. We knew something happened in the mall with her friend Riley, who she probably had feelings for. And she got bit by a zombie. We knew all that, and then we got the episode. I wouldn't have a problem with the episode if the characters were better written, if the dialogue was better written. Like, I wanted to see Ellie 100% on the side of, like, Fedra. And her friend 100% is with the Fireflies, and they're friends, and they're trying to have this fun moment and adventure, but they're differing on different things. It seems like they kind of did that. They dipped their toes into that with some of their conversations, but they didn't get deep into that. I think that should have been a smack you in the face kind of thing with this episode.
I'm going to go ahead and give context because for the game, basically, this was not in the Last of Us game. What it was in is something called DLC, or people who are gamers, they know what that is, downloadable content. It's basically an expansion for the game that you can add to the game and play through.
So you're supposed to not watch this episode. You're supposed to download this episode after the fact.
After the fact. 10 months later.
Yeah. So basically, this was a expansion pack story to The Last of Us. And it was basically off this idea of...
It's perfect.
So in the game, they decided to place a spot where Joel gets injured, which we saw in the end of episode 6, but that was in the downloadable content. So in the game, he does get injured, but they basically come out of the Colorado cold, and Ellie is frantically searching for something to help him, to try to make him better. But they are in an abandoned mall. And that is what kind of lends itself to storytelling in the fact of she remembers back. There's like this back and forth flashpoint for Ellie. It's her going through the mall, defending herself from clickers, looking for something to help Joel, who's injured in a back corner somewhere, and flashing from that between her experience getting bit with her lover friend, right? So it's this back and forth. I don't necessarily have a hard problem with it like Joshua's. I'm not as apologetic as Joshua is. I do have a problem with it.
Hey, don't wait. Don't downgrade my opinion.
If they had done this episode like you're describing, where she's in a mall.
That's where I was getting to. That's what I was getting to. I was actually going to say the story, it should have followed the game more correctly, because I think the gameplay I watched was about 2 hours long, and it did gameplay along with the kind of story elements for the game. So what should have happened is what happened in the game. You don't have to go back and forth, but if you're going to tell the backstory of Ellie, tell it in like 20 minutes. You know what I mean? and then give us more with her actually interacting with clickers on her own, trying to help Joel. I think I would actually have a less problem with this if we didn't have episode 3. If they didn't just completely deter us away from the story and just give us this useless section of this season with Bill and Frank. And now I don't feel like I can trust them. So when we come into an episode like this, my initial gut reaction is like, I don't like it. It feels like a big waste of time from the main storyline. And then you're like, okay, it's accurate to the game, kind of. And so I have to kind of be okay with it. But at the same time, there's still something inside of me that doesn't enjoy it too much. But as far as like the characters themselves, the way they acted, the way they communicated, literally line for line, it is so similar to the game. It was like almost dumb the way they wrote the script. It was like a copy and paste kind of thing.
I want.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
I'm not apologist for this episode. There was a lot to it that was boring and that wasn't the best episode. But I feel like it's still following a main character. It's not both the main characters, but it's still following a main character, and it's telling us a story that ultimately has got them to where they were. This is nothing like episode 3. I don't even want to get into episode 3. That was its own thing. I'm not saying episode 3 was a good episode, but this
the full
by
episode
itself was
full episode backstory is 100% just like episode 3. They gave us a second full episode backstory, which is what episode 3 was.
Yes, but
spending
episode
the
3
entire
didn't
in the past.
really even have the main characters in it. They took 2 characters, introduced them, and then killed them off at the end. I don't want to talk about episode 3 because
you're right.
About episode 7.
It followed the primary character.
It followed the primary characters, and so for that, I think it works. I'm not saying that it was a...
So you're saying all the dialogue works?
No, I said there was things that didn't work in the episode, but the story
and the relationship feels natural. That works.
Don't
being a dick. I'm sorry.
Don't be that.
No, those are my issues with it. Like you're saying, what you're saying, I think makes sense. Following the main character, I have no problem with. It's much more desirable than spending time with Bill and Frank. The issue I have is it could have been enjoyable, but there was nothing to enjoy about it. The conversations weren't deep. The dialogue was messy. I didn't believe anything they were saying to each other. They swear every other word,
which is accurate to the characters in the game.
But it makes it
no.
I don't know.
Don't say no. I watched the gameplay
I felt
today.
like it made it less believable for
did.
me.
I feel like I don't think it had as much to do with how they wrote it or what they were doing.
Delivery.
Yes, it was mostly delivery. Those 2 actresses, they weren't very good at playing those characters. I'm only bringing this up because Steven Spielberg is so good at throwing kids into his movies like Super 8, and it feels natural. This felt like they were cussing to prove a point, but it didn't fit. And it was like, why are you even doing it? Because it doesn't feel like it fits at all. And that's the stuff I don't like.
Like Spielberg, when kids in Spielberg movies cuss, it feels like kids feeling out language.
Right.
When the kids in this show cuss, it feels like adults putting words in their mouth.
Yeah.
Adult writers putting words in their mouth. It doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel real. So if the episode felt more natural, it felt more real, it felt more believable, I think I'd be more inclined to like this episode and not feel like it was a huge waste of time.
I think the games, why the Left Behind DLC is so good, why people liked it so much, is because it is fun for gameplay. But I wouldn't say that the story elements of telling the emotional experience outside, the emotional experience it has its own weight to it, but there is a lot of unnecessary buildup to get to that. Whereas the gameplay gives you breaks of fighting clickers and sneaking around and looking for ways to help Joel. That's outside, and when it switches to Ellie and Riley, them running away from a whole horde of clickers, not just one, you know? So there's an excitement to the Left Behind gameplay that wasn't in the episode. And instead, we just got 40 minutes of 2 teenage girls, like, experiencing a mall, I guess, for the first time for Ellie. And and I didn't really I wasn't feeling emotionally involved until they introduced there's a clicker somewhere here, and I was
It's
just
not
waiting.
even a clicker.
A infected somewhere here, and I was just waiting for it to pop out somewhere. That's really my whole investment once they introduced that.
I also think they made the love story a little bit too on the nose.
A
little bit of subtlety would have been like, it was on the nose from the beginning. And especially when dealing with teenagers and kids, this is an adult TV show.
Mm-hmm.
We're dealing with a relationship between teenagers and kids. There needs to be a more, I think,
where are the children's
perspective of it?
Yeah, where are the children's innocence in this world instead of trying to make the children little adults, like you said?
I think it's a combination of Neil Druckmann, especially the writers, the directors, and probably cast. I don't know that this is like the worst episode of TV I've ever seen, but it certainly was rather boring.
Bill and Frank was worse.
I wasn't invested in. Okay, here's the thing about Bill and Frank.
Hey, this is not
hold on.
Episode 3, verse 7.
Right. Here's the episode.
Let's get through our
Here's
point
the episode
and
about
let's
the thing about Bill and Frank. At least it was a more compelling love story. The love story in this episode wasn't even compelling.
It was age appropriate.
Yeah, that one was at least age appropriate. This one felt weird and uncomfortable.
Felt like we were, as adults, spying on kids that are exploring each other's love interests.
Imagine if nowadays, if they had a 14-year-old character and a 17-year-old character, the 14-year-old character is a girl, 17-year-old character is a boy. They walk past a Victoria's Secret and he's like, wouldn't it be crazy if you were wearing those things?
Yeah, not cool.
Yeah, that's not cool.
But
they say it in this.
They do say it in this.
It's weird.
It is weird. And that's what you're saying, we needed less. If you wanted to tell their story, show us less. Give it a sit in 20 minutes and show Ellie surviving with Joel as well. Or do something emotional for her character, remembering that in real time with Joel, not necessarily just telling the whole backstory.
No, she finds some dirty, dusty needle and thread, and
that was the whole thing.
The whole
episode
starts. She didn't come to some sort of realization.
Yeah,
right. I was like, oh, there's gonna be something that happens between the two of them where she kind of gave up. She gave up on her friend. She gave up on Riley.
Right,
and. She's not gonna make.
She blames herself.
She blames herself, and now she's not gonna make the same mistake twice here with Joel. No, there was nothing like that. She just finds some needle and thread.
I don't know.
Lame.
Look, and for everybody out there who just fanboyed and fangirled over episode 3 and is going to do the exact same for this episode, just stop. Be honest. If you really liked it, be honest. But if you didn't, just stop. Just stop saying you did.
It was boring.
It was dumb. It was not good
Be
writing.
honest. It was boring.
It was boring.
Let's end this.
And just
end this.
useless
I feel
to the story.
You guys said
we're just gonna
boring. Literally,
we can go
40 times.
I could go
now.
on for 10 more minutes talking about how much I dislike
boring.
this episode.
I'm bored of this YouTube video. Thanks for watching. That's our reaction to season 1, episode 7 of Last of Us. Let us know it in the comments down below what you guys thought.
Subscribe to the channel if you like what you heard.
Compare it to episode 3. Just let us know.
Yeah, and if you're okay with what we said, subscribe, please. We'd appreciate it.
If you're not okay with what we said,
subscribe.
Subscribe anyway.
Leave some mean comments.
No, they're gonna do that already. You don't have to encourage them to do that. They'll do it already. They're more likely to do that. Thank you guys. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time.